14, 15, and 16, I'll show you how to do those by hand. It's going to take a while, but I'll show you how to do them by hand. On 14 and 15, you treat them just like you would the previous problems. You're going to isolate your square root. So I'm going to add x to both sides. So now when I square, this gives me a quadratic. So if you recall, x plus 7 squared is x plus 7 times x plus 7. So I'm going to distribute, I get x squared plus 7x plus 7x plus 49. So 7x plus 7x, those combine to be 14x. So 7 plus x plus 7 squared is x squared plus 14x plus 49. Negative 7 equals the square root of 42 minus 6x minus x. I'm going to try 1. That's going to be the easiest one to check. 42 minus 6 minus 1. So that's going to be 36. Square root of 36 is 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. Negative 7 does not equal 5. So x is not equal to 1. So when I got that x equaled 1, that is extraneous. And the root of extraneous is extra. So that was an extra answer. So now when I try x equals 7, I'm going to have negative 7 is equal to the square root of 42 minus 6 times 7, which is 42, minus 7. So the square root of 42 minus 42 is 0. So the square root of 0 is 0. So I get negative 7 equals negative 7. So that works out. So my only answer on number 14 is 7. So I'm going to do the same thing on 15 and hopefully I don't mess it up this time. On 15, I have negative 6 equals the square root of x minus 6 minus x. So again, I'm going to add x over. And I get x minus 6 equals the square root of x minus 6. So I'm going to square both sides. The right side just becomes x minus 6. The left side, when I square that, I'm going to have x squared minus 12x plus 36. So I have x minus 6 squared, that's x minus 6, x minus 6. And when I distribute, I have x squared minus 6x minus 6x, and then plus 36. So my two middle terms add to be negative 12x Okay, so I'm going to subtract x, add 6, add 6. My right side is now 0, so I have x squared minus 13x plus 42. This one I'm going to use the quadratic formula, even though you could factor, just like we did on 14. So a is 1, b is negative 13, c is 42. So set that up. It's negative, and my equation for the square or for the quadratic formula is negative b. So negative of a negative is positive 13 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So you put that in a calculator, and I do believe you get 7 and 6. So just a refresher, to get the fraction bar, alpha y equals 1. So I want 13 plus the square root of 13 squared, square minus 4 times 1 times 42. And then arrow down 2 times 1. I get 7. So I'm going to arrow up, highlight that stuff, press enter, and I'm going to change that plus square root to say minus. Not negative, but minus. So I'm going to use the minus sign over here. And you get 6. So while I'm on the calculator, I'll show you how to put in the equation and look at the table. So I'm going to put the left side in, negative 6. The right side, the square root of x minus 6. Arrow out, minus x. So I'm going to go to the table. Well, I'm going to start by graphing it, so I can see how many times they intersect. So there's a line, y equals negative 6. There's a square root. So it looks like they crossed once, but it could have been twice. So I'm going to go to the table and look. We know it's around 6 and 7. So go and look. And it's actually both. So I got 2 answers, and neither of them were extraneous. So for number 15, we have 2 answers. The x value is your answer, not the y value. The y values match up for a particular x value, but the x value is your answer. So x equals 6 and x equals 7. There are two answers. So 16 is going to take some time. I can't isolate my square root on 16 since I have two square roots. And I'm adding 1. So when I square both sides, it gets messy. So I'm going to rewrite it. A real quick way to mess this up even worse is to try to get your square roots on one side together. That is a big no. It works, but it looks awful. So I'm going to square both sides. The left side, that's simple, just becomes 3x minus 8. The right side, I'm going to get the square root of 5 minus x squared plus the square root of 5 minus x times 1, but that doesn't change anything, and the square root of 5 minus x times 1, which doesn't change anything, plus 1 squared. Which I don't know why I put the parentheses, that shouldn't be there. So from here, I have two of the same radical. So I can just say that's 2 times 5 minus x. That's me plus 1. This, I square the square root, so that's where my square root undoes the square. Those two undo each other and leaves me 5 minus x. So now I just have one square root. We're going to put that in quarantine. We're going to get that isolated. So I'm going to subtract 5, add x, subtract 1. So 3x plus x is 4x. Negative 8 minus 5 is negative 13. Minus 1, that's negative 14. And that's equal to 2 times the square root of 5 minus x. So since 2 goes into 4 and 14, I'm going to divide by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And I'm almost done now. Square, square. The right side becomes 5 minus x. The left side is a different story. So 2x minus 7 squared is 2x minus 7 times 2x minus 7. So I distribute. I get 2 times 2 is 4x squared. 2 times negative 7, negative 14x. Negative 14x plus 49. So it becomes 4x squared minus 28x plus 49. So I have 4x squared minus 28x plus 49 equals 5 minus x. So I'm almost done. I'm going to subtract 5, add x, get my right side equal to 0. So I have a quadratic. So 4x squared minus 28x plus 44. So from here, I'm going to use the quadratic formula definitely. A equals 4, B equals negative 27, and C equals 44. In the calculator, alpha y equals 1. I'm going to put 27 plus the square root of 27 squared minus 4 times 4 times 44. It's a lot of 4s. Divided by 2 times 4. I got 4. I'm going to go up and say I want the positive, or I want the negative square root rather. So I'm going to say subtract the square root. And I get 11/4. Oops, cutting off the answers. 4 and 11/4. So I'm going to go to the table. I'm going to put this in the left side in y1, 3x minus 8. The right side, oops, oh. The right side in y2, square root of 5 minus x plus 1. Graph it and see if there are 2 intersections. There is only 1. And it looks like it is 4. 11/4, that's about 3. So at 3, it definitely didn't cross the 3. So I know 11/4 is extraneous. Go to the table, and there's 2, x is 4. And that's the only answer I get. Okay, 17 gives you an equation about fencing, no one cares. And it says 60 feet of fencing. F is fencing, so we know F equals 60. And F equals that equation. So I'm going to have to isolate my radical, so I'm going to subtract 15. So I get 45 equals the square root of a plus 225. So now I'm going to square both sides. And I'm going to put in the calculator 45 squared. That's going to be a rather large number. 2,025. So to get to A, I'm going to subtract 225. So it gives me A is 1,800 square feet.